Fight fans, it is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I'm George DeMatteis. Quick reminder to scan the QR code and also download the ProBox TV app where apps are available. To get the insights of our great world champions, we have Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and Hall of Fame trainer Teddy Atlas joining us here on Top Stories. Well, Arnold Barboza and Jack Catterall could be on course to fight in February. The WBO Championship Committee has ordered the respective parties to start negotiations for a fight to determine the mandatory challenger at 140 for champion Teofimo Lopez. Now, in this case, Golden Boy for Barboza and Matchroom for Catterall have 20 days to agree to terms, or the WBO will take it to purse bids. All right, Paulie, let me start with you here. If this fight occurs in February, who do you like in this fight? Who wins? What are your thoughts on the fight overall?
It's hard to really pick a winner off the top of my head, but I do like this fight because they've been guys that have been very, very effective in a lot of ways, but have sort of flown below the radar, maybe not gotten the credit that they deserve. They've done some really good things. Obviously, Barboza's been undefeated for a while. He had that one hiccup in the controversial decision with that Irish fighter, but his last fight just came back, looked really, really good against JC Ramirez. Catterall is another guy who keeps getting the wins, beats some good fighters, never really wows you, but keeps getting the wins against those difficult opponents. So these are guys that get the results against the level of opponent that they should, but sometimes they're not spoken about as much as they should be. So I do like this fight. I do like that it could possibly be for a mandatory. I'm not quite sure if Teofimo does end up fighting the winner, because I feel like there's a point where Teofimo may feel like he's bigger than the belts. But nonetheless, I like the position that these guys are putting themselves in. If nobody really wants to deal with them, if nobody's going to talk about them, they can fight each other because they continue to get really good wins in their career. And a fight against one another would also produce a good win for one of them.
Hey, Chris, what do you make of this fight here between Barboza and Catterall?
I like this fight a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. You got two of the most overlooked guys in the sport fighting each other. Both of them are trying to break through. I would argue Jack Catterall deserves a title shot now. He's got the two fights that he split with Josh Taylor, but most people had him win in that first fight when Josh was actually undisputed. So he technically should be a world champion already. He's got a great win in his last fight against Regis Prograis. He looked very, very dominant in that fight as well. Barboza coming off the best win of his career, beating JC Ramirez. It just makes sense. Sometimes boxing makes sense. Sometimes things that are rational get put together, and then you get guys fight like this. You get fights like this, and I think they both need each other anyway. Because, like I said, they're both overlooked. Neither one of them really wows you. That's not really what their styles are about. So have them fight each other, and hopefully the winner can secure a title shot, because it would be deservedly so either way. Like I said, I already think Jack deserves a title shot. But Barboza, another good win under his belt, he deserves one as well. So. Yeah, make it happen. And if it does become Teofimo, I like that fight as well. Either one of these guys against Teofimo Lopez. Teo doesn't really avoid the difficult fights, seeing guys with difficult styles. So it's not too hard to believe that fight actually could occur.
All right, Teddy, what's your thoughts on this matchup between Barboza and Catterall? That could happen.
Styles make fights, George. Styles make fights. And from a trainer's perspective, I find it really interesting, like what style is going to show up. Catterall, we know he's a pure counterpuncher. He lives on the outside. He counterpunches. If he's got to go, in the trench, he's a fighter. But he makes his living counterpunching. He's a pure counterpuncher. If you love that kind of style, that kind of expertise, science. You like to go to baseball games and watch a pitcher disarm the batter, move the ball around, hit the corners, take the bat out of the hands of the guy at plate. You love Catterall, and he's earned his spot. There's no doubt about it. The funny thing is, I have more questions about Barboza, because Barboza, he got a gift against McCombs. And how did McCombs fight him? On the outside, counterpunching, moving, boxing. And he won that fight. But I'm not going to go. I already, dealt with that. I already gave my feelings on that McCombs really got robbed in that fight. But look, Barboza, to what Chris said, he came back and he had a nice win against Jose Ramirez in his last fight. He looked good. The interesting thing to me, again, from the perspective as a trainer, was that against Ramirez, when he was fighting McCombs, he was trying to be the aggressive guy, and McCombs outboxed him. But against Ramirez, Ramirez is the aggressive guy. So what did Barboza do? He showed a dimension I wasn't 100% aware of, that he could box. He boxed on the outside. He counterpunched. He used his legs. He controlled space. He kept Ramirez from getting to him for the most part. Controlled the geography of the ring, as I like to say. He made it his fight. His fight was to box that night, and he outboxed Ramirez. He did a great job. I'm curious as hell now to see which one's going to show up. Is he? I don't think he can outbox Catterall. See, I find this a real interesting X and O fight for me because, I think he's going to have to go back to the guy that didn't do too good against McCombs and hopefully clean it up and do a better job. But I think the burden's going to be on him to bring the fight if he's going to beat Catterall. And like I said, he's going to have to show me that he's learned how to bring the fight to a counterpuncher, because he didn't show me that in McCombs, but he did show me another side to him. He showed me that he could become the counterpuncher. I just don't know that he could become the counterpuncher in a boxer and win against Catterall. For those reasons, not usually I want to see a fight because it's going to be an explosion. Just like my comrades here. I think we want to see an explosion. But this fight, I'm really curious to see, the science of it. Like who's going to show up? I know Catterall's going to show up as the counterpuncher. That's what he is. But who's going to show up with Barboza? And is he going to figure out a way to deal with the boxing skills of Catterall? So I'm finding it already a very curious fight for me, a fight that's going to be about a lot more than just physicality.
Teddy, I got a question. Teddy, I got a question regarding that. You mentioned how Barboza, he was boxing, he was trying to pressure McCombs, but he boxed Ramirez. There's some trainers when I was coming up the ladder, they believed in that. You box the brawler and you brawl the boxer. I never believed that. I believe you got to fight your fight no matter what. What do you think? Maybe he's taking that approach, and what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's why I'm really looking forward. I'm glad you're here, and Chris, you guys always ask the right questions. I don't know. I mean, I think the thing for me is, from a trainer, what did you learn? You got away with one against McCombs. I'm not sure a trainer's going to say that, but that was really tight against McCombs. What did you learn? And if you're going to fight your fight, what is your fight? Because I'm confused right now, Paulie. I don't know what his fight is. Is your fight to box? You look damn good against Ramirez. Ramirez getting a little long in the tooth, but
yeah, I believe you got to have an identity as a fighter. You're right, and I know what Barboza's identity is.
No, and you know what? That's funny you say that, because as a trainer, when people have asked me what's the most important element of being a good fighter, the most important, trait or part of it, you have to have an identity. You have to know who you are. You can't be Muhammad Ali one day and Joe Frazier the next. I mean, you got to know who you are. You got to know what you are. That doesn't mean you can't adjust to the moment. That doesn't mean that. We're not saying that. But you do have to know what your core identity is. And that's what makes this fight, from my perspective, so curious and so interesting. I don't know who the frick Ramirez. I don't know who Barboza is right now. I'm not positive. But it doesn't matter. I just hope he knows who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be fascinating. You want to know how even this matchup is? Catterall, 31 years of age, and Barboza Jr. is 32 years of age. Barboza is 31-0. Catterall is 30-1. I mean, that is setting up beautifully. Just off the numbers alone, you're looking at a fantastic matchup between Catterall and Arnold Barboza. We'll see if it actually goes through and we get that fight in February. And if we get closer, as we get closer to that date, we'll keep you updated here on Top Stories. Reminder once again to scan the QR code, like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available. You can catch the next edition of the Contender Series December 7th. We are back in Ireland for another great fight card. I am George DeMatteis, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
ProBox TV Contender Series. On December 7th, look for an all-out Irish war as Dylan the Real Deal Moran battles Tyrone the Mighty Celt McKenna at the top of a stacked ProBox-worthy card.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.